What's going on, fifth graders? Mr. Bullens here, and yet again, winter weather has reared its ugly head and kind of interrupted our flow, but that's all right. We're going to continue with our lesson that we would have had today. And if you look inside of the Google Classroom and then you kind of dig into the Google slide for the week, you will see that starting off for today, we're going to be introducing the layers of the atmosphere. And before we even start with the different layers of the atmosphere, there are two extremely important terms that we need to cover. They are on your vocabulary for this week. And so let's go ahead and jot down those terms. We're going to get those in our notebooks for today. First, we have altitude. I do not know why that's writing in red. I will change that and delete that and go back and write in black. Altitude. How high something is above the Earth's surface. Now, altitude is very important. We will often describe clouds by where they form in altitude. We will describe different things that happen in weather, like the northern lights, where planes fly, where meteors burn up, in altitude as well, or what layer of the atmosphere they happen to fall in. But altitude is how high something is above the Earth. If you are going up the mountain, and I know my favorite watch had this, but unfortunately that broke. I had a thing on there called, and you do not have to jot this down, it was called an altimeter or an altimeter, depending on how you want to say that. An altimeter just measured altitude. And I always loved going up to the top of Beach Mountain and checking my watch versus the labeled altitude at Beach Mountain to see how accurate my watch was. And it was always fun to hike up and down trails when I was playing disc golf and see how high and how low I had gone for that day. Our second word that we're going to see today, this one you do need to jot down. Here's our word number one, is atmosphere. Now, obviously, this week we're studying the layers of the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is all of the air surrounding the Earth. Again, we have talked about these vocabulary words. Everyone should have a copy of those vocabulary words. We handed that out after the test, and people that weren't here still picked that up. If for some reason you do not have that, we can kind of come into here, go into Google Classroom. Should have that pulled up. That's right. Classwork. It's here. Pretty quick. And here is this week. And you will notice that the copy of the vocabulary is here, and here's our first two words, altitude and atmosphere, the first two things that we've kind of talked about for today. So again, very, very important things that we'll be talking about pretty much for this week, and I'm hoping to kind of end this a little earlier than I normally would so that we can move on into some other things. So the atmosphere, all the air that is surrounding the Earth, is divided up into layers. And so there's layers of air that surround the Earth. And each layer has very important aspects and functions that it does that helps protect people on the Earth, that helps the Earth able to function and to continue to thrive. And we're going to study each of those layers as we move through this unit. So we are going to work on memorizing the different layers and what each layer does. And we're going to start from the outermost layer and work our way to the layer that is closest to the Earth. And so we're going to start with the exosphere, and we're going to kind of move our way down from the exosphere all the way down to the troposphere, which is the layer of the atmosphere that's closest to the Earth. And you can kind of see a little bit of a preview in the background here. Exosphere, Thermosphere, Mesosphere, Stratosphere, Troposphere. And even when I handed out the words, everybody kind of looked at me and they were like, whoa, Mr. B, this is a little intimidating because, number one, these are all words that we've never seen before. And we're actually kind of nervous about that because I don't know that I'm going to be able to remember all of that. And we talked about that, and that's fine. I don't think you're going to have a struggle with this at all because we have some tricks and ways to memorize all that. And we'll get to that now. We're going to have this little saying. I know that we've said condensation is cloud formation. And this is something that we're going to do. And again, we'll probably have to change it after this year just because Miss Saunders is at a different school. So kids next year might not really know who she is. So we'll have to figure out something this year. Maybe somebody in class can come up with something really cool. But we're going to use this for this year. Everybody thank Miss Saunders today. So it's going to look a little bit like this. Kind of an easy way to remember this. And these are easy ways for us to remember the layers of the atmosphere. You do need to have this in your notebook because it's something that we'll refer to every time. So we have these letters here. Okay. Exosphere. So the E in everybody helps me remember exosphere. Next, the TH. Thermosphere. Everybody think Mrs. And again, it starts with an M. Mesosphere. Everybody think Miss Saunders. S is for the Stratosphere. And following up with this, the T for Troposphere. So, if we think about it like this, everybody thank Miss Saunders today. Put the H in there if you want from that. Everybody thank Miss Saunders today is the way that we're going to remember the different layers of the atmosphere. One thing, I'm going to attach this into the Google Classroom. I expect you to watch this and take notes as we move through. We probably will watch it again in class and have a conversation about that. But again, I can't record something, put it on my YouTube channel. That's copyright laws. And we'll skip that. Now that we know how to remember the order, everybody thank Miss Saunders today, we're going to memorize what happens inside of each layer. Now again, this is pretty easy, I think, because it's not super difficult what happens in each layer, and I'm not asking to memorize like 50 things. It's generally one or two things within each layer that is extremely important to us, and then we will kind of move on after that. The exosphere, remember, that's the everybody. This is the last layer. Remember, start from the outside and coming down towards the earth. This is the outside layer. It's the one that blends into space. So if I was defining exosphere, one thing that I would put down is that it blends into space. All right, so we're going to talk about the exosphere really quickly. The exosphere is the outermost layer. It's the furthest away from Earth. The exosphere is the outermost layer, and it is the furthest away from Earth. This is where satellites, if my pen will work, satellites orbit here. You can kind of see some of these things here. Satellites orbit the Earth here. You do not need to memorize this next part about it can be very cold at night and during the day extremely hot. So you don't need to memorize 10,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface. It is the thinnest of all the layers. And it's the first layer to interact with the sun's radiation. I told you that radiation, conduction, and convection wasn't going away. So again, exosphere. What's the two big main points about the exosphere? Well, we just wrote those down. It's the outermost layer, and satellites happen to orbit here. Again, as I post the codes for you for Nearpod, it is expected that you go in and watch the videos that are attached in here and take notes. Yes, we probably will go back and watch them again together in class because I want to make sure everybody has a chance to see these. They are important. But again, kind of go through this and take some notes on that. So we go, everybody think. So our second one, if we have that TH here, we have the TH here. Everybody think. So the thermosphere is just under the exosphere. And remember, we talked about how as we move up in the atmosphere, it gets colder, but I told you to keep in the back of your mind that it doesn't consistently get colder. And again, it can get extremely hot in the thermosphere, which kind of makes sense. Thermo is a Greek word that means heat. And the most important thing that we're going to talk about in the thermosphere for right now is this is where the International Space Station orbits. So our first thing that we're going to jot down about the thermosphere is the International Space Station orbits here. The second thing that's extremely important about the thermosphere is this is where the aurora borealis, or we learn from our vocabulary words, this is also called the northern lights, occur inside of the thermosphere. So again, as you're following along with me in the video, that's fine, but you're also going to be going back into Nearpod, and so you will have a video that shows you the view from the International Space Station, which is pretty awesome. And we talk about the aurora borealis and probably have some videos uploaded here. We'll watch this one in class. You do not have to watch this one in here, and we'll talk about that in class a little bit more as we get into this video here. Same thing as the other. That's the same link for the other one. We'll do this one in class and talk a little bit more about the aurora borealis. So we go to the middle layer, which thank goodness starts with an M. So everybody think misses. Now we're in the middle layer. We're in the mesosphere. This is probably the one that I think is the easiest to remember because of everything. So we have the everybody think misses. M, mesosphere, is the middle layer. And what happens in the mesosphere, the big thing is, happens to start with an M as well. Meteors typically burn up in this layer. So we've gone from the exosphere, the outermost layer, to the thermosphere with the aurora borealis, and now we're at the mesosphere, the middle layer where meteors burn up. That's extremely easy to remember. This could be what the surface of the Earth looked like if we didn't have that mesosphere protecting us, and this is the moon's surface, and this is where meteors have hit. And again, you'll be able to watch a video in class about that and kind of take some notes. Everybody think Mrs. Saunders. Now we are into the stratosphere, the stratosphere. Stratosphere is important for a few reasons. One of the big reasons is this is where the ozone layer is found. And the ozone layer protects us from harmful UV rays. So now we're in the Saunders part, or the stratosphere. The stratosphere has two main things that it does, and we have them listed here. Number one, the ozone layer is found in the stratosphere. What that does is it protects us from the harmful UV rays of the sun. It absorbs those UV rays, so it can get pretty toasty in the stratosphere in that UV area. And the second thing, if you've ever flown on a plane and you hit that turbulence where there's a lot of violent air, that's in the layer just below us, so planes will jump up into the very, very bottom portion of the stratosphere. So many commercial planes fly in the stratosphere to avoid all of that turbulence. Now, we will watch this video together in class. You can skip that today. And that takes us into the troposphere, the lowest level, the layer that is close to us. We live here, and the big thing about the troposphere is this is where most weather happens. All right, we're in the weather unit, so obviously that's important. Again, as we said, we're in the troposphere now. The troposphere is the layer closest to where we live. This is where we live. So we live here, and this is where most weather happens. So again, as we kind of go back through, we have the exosphere. Everybody think Ms. Saunders today. This is the area closest to space. We have the TH for think, which is the thermosphere. Everybody think Mrs. Mesosphere, that middle layer where meteors burn up. Everybody think this is Saunders. Stratosphere. Smash the like button and subscribe.